Previously on Poetically Mused. It's Memorial Day and my patriotism has mixed feelings. We were the sacrifice behind manifest destiny. My memory then flashes to the oceans of tombstones at Arlington. The color they bled, red as the stripes on the flag, served to me as a reminder that death had no color. Moonrise, black and glowing skies advise my infernos inside. After long days of divine talk, my scratch paper makes dead trees walk through portals of my automatic writing, igniting, exciting. It gets surprising how they drip off my lips and tongue, like ruby pebbles turned loose and skipped across Niger rivers of all my creative jujus. I am iiiYansa, poetic is Ngoma, and this is my book of moonbeams. Pataki, oni mi ojo iti e bebe mere lelo bon odunek bawa mokinden lugu. Metele ogota awono jo igba efere. It was a beautiful day to be alive, out and about. The sky was cloudless, aquamarine blue. The sun was shining bright, the temperature was heating up, and even the breeze tasted cinnamon honey sweet. Moon is waning in Aquarius, just reminding me to forever, always be myself, completely authentic, and sending away anything on the waning tides that keeps me from that affirmation. I adorned as a turquoise healing stone and headed on over to 90.1 Pacifica Radio. I was a guest there on the Black on Both Sides radio show, hosted by Mr. Gordon yet again and his lovely new co-host, Cameron King. Fellow cat people, Leo, note. She gave me a flashback of the time when I was behind the switchboard with Harrison Cooney on the World Music Express show, KPVU, KTSU, Artists First, and other internet radio stations. I trust the universe will bring me back to the airwaves at its own appointed time. But right now, there are other fish to fry, like women in a circle of healing, like the windsong crawl of oracles, like my mystic private practice, iiiYansa's glass gourd, like poetically mused, like the Shape Center's 50th anniversary festivities. What was the topic? All things iiiYansa, if you will. 45 minutes of a sample, a spicy little taste of a long saga to be told.
And we are back. This is Black on Both Sides, Cameron King here at 90.1 KPFT Houston. It is 1:07, and I have a fabulous, or should I say Gordon and I, we have a fabulous interview set up with you all, or for you all, with Miss iiiYansa Muse. Go ahead and introduce yourself, say hello to our listeners, Miss iiiYansa.
How's everyone doing this afternoon? My name is iiiYansa J. Muse, and I am honored to be here yet again at 90.1 KPFT. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is my first time meeting you, Ms. King. So I'm just really happy and honored to be here, and just wish love, light on everyone who's listening.
And we are so happy to have you here and to hear from you and to hear about who you are and what you feel your purpose is here on this earth in this lifetime. So let's go ahead and start with just a little bit of background. Who are you? Where did you come from? Tell us all the good stuff, all the details.
Well, I like to jokingly say in this lifetime, I was born August 1st. I'm not going to give away my age. Come on now. I didn't know I was born in 3rd Ward until I moved back to 3rd Ward in 2013. I spent most of my childhood growing up in Dallas. I've spent a lot of time in Memphis at the time that my grandmother was living there. My family is from Detroit. I'm the only one out of all 4 of my siblings that was born in the South. The other 3 were born in Detroit. And then, I came, the baby. Mm-hmm. Mom was 40, Dad was 44, and I just kind of showed up. I graduated from high school in Texarkana, okay. And then I went to Prairie View A&M University.
And I graduated from Prairie View with 1 degree in theater arts and another in mass communications media study. And then after that, I just stayed home.
So you turned, first let's say, would you consider those to be your passions, theater and then being a communicator, perhaps a storyteller, if you will?
Communicating, storytelling, yes, most definitely. I wrote my first short story in 3rd grade, and my teacher didn't believe that I wrote it. She actually asked my mother if my mother had did my homework for me.
And of course not.
And my mom was like, I didn't even really, I glanced at it to make sure she did it, but she was like, I didn't really read it. And she was like, it was so detailed for a 3rd grader. So that was the first writing thing. I loved reading. I loved writing. I went to the library for fun. The library was my celebration station. When my parents would take me to Chuck E. Cheese, I'd look at them crazy like, what am I supposed to do with this? But they would have
to run around with the rest of the real, little children around.
Like, oh, these kids.
So
and, the library was more of my celebration station. So yes, journalism was expected. I wrote for the paper in high school. I wrote for the paper in college. I was on the yearbook staff, so writing was always a very solid point. Theater was more of a spiritual move. I didn't choose a theater major at Prairie View until I met the great C. Lee Turner.
Okay.
Yes, shout out to the Charles Gilpin players. But I didn't choose a degree in theater arts until I met him. It was one of those spiritual moments where you just know the divine says, it might not make sense, but you're supposed to be here.
This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And then, so I guess, obviously, from an early age, you had something instilled in you that kind of led you down this path that you've traveled on, would you say?
Oh, yes. I would make this joke that the universe and I have always had an inside joke, just like an inside understanding. I grew up a Christian deacon's daughter, can you imagine? And I could recall lots of church programs, lots of musicals and pastors' anniversaries and lots of sermons, lots and lots of sermons. And I remember just thinking, in the midst of all of it, where's God? Where's God? I remember one day we got in a car after the program and I asked my dad, I said, well, why does the pastor need a Cadillac when Jesus walked? Uh-oh. My dad just looked at me. Okay, we got us a winner here. And finally, it was one day where the sun was setting, and it was an autumn evening, and the wind was blowing through the trees. And you know how when the sun sets, it paints the sky this beautiful orangish, purplish color, and it looked like the tree was dancing. And as a child, I remember looking at that tree and saying, "There you are. Okay, you're all over the place. You're not just in church."
Right.
So ever since then, I had been just kind of following my intuition, but it cost me.
Right.
Definitely cost me.
And so how did you, I guess, process that and abandoning, I guess, that traditional kind of Christian identity and finding something, I guess, maybe wider than that or greater than that, perhaps you would call it?
Yes. I would say that a certain degree of it was already missing from me.
Right.
There was already some things, missing. When I say it cost me, I mean that I dealt with a lot of ridicule. I dealt with a lot of people saying things like, oh, you're special, or she ain't wrapped too tight. She ain't all the way there. Something's wrong with her. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the exact opposite.
Right.
But it was just a certain inner knowing and certain things that I took from Christian teachings that I have always kept with me, because many Christian teachings are universal.
Right.
When you study all the religious texts, you will find the essence of Yeshua Christos in every faith there is, just under a different name and a different time frame.
Right.
And so I longed, for some reason, I longed for that higher understanding, because reading was my pastime. Barbie got no love. Cabbage Patch Kids, okay, I collected them, but, I read the birth certificate. I really collected Cabbage Patch Kids just to read the birth certificates.
What's their story?
Where'd they come from? Where'd this one come from? Where'd that one come from? I was always wanting to read. So when the pastor would say things about the Bible, I'm going to crack this book and I'm going to really read it. And that's when I started seeking more of a deeper understanding.
Okay. And so tell us about your journey now as I'll say self-proclaimed. I'm not sure what priestesshood looks like, but as a mystic priestess / counselor and an oracle journalist, tell us how your journey has led you to identifying with those titles.
Absolutely. Well, I'll go back to my name, okay, because I spell iiYansa with 3 I's. And they are an abbreviation. They are a representation. I don't just spell it like that because, it looks fly. The first I in iiYansa stands for ivory, and that's my birth name. I'm a namesake of both my grandmothers. My mother's name is Ivory. My father's mother's name was Lorene. So my first and middle name is Ivory Lorene. So the first I in iiYansa goes for Ivory. Secondly, oh boy. Here we go. Oh boy. Okay, see, what had happened was I was waiting tables after I graduated college because I graduated right when the economic recession hit. And so I waited tables not just to wait for my next move. I wasn't waiting tables. I was also waiting for the next move from the Most High. Because I knew I had talents. I knew I had gifts. I had gone out there and bumped my head and made some mistakes. And I had decided that I didn't want the prosperity in life if it meant that I had to give up my soul. That offer was that's not on the table.
Yeah.
So after waiting tables for a few years, the very last restaurant that I waited tables in was called the Crossroads. Now, I worked a lot of odd jobs, but one thing was in common with all the jobs that I worked, including radio, was that I was always the go-to person. Everybody wanted to come to me and tell me their business and ask me what to do. And I never knew why.
Not a job you signed up for initially.
Yes. And I remember I was kind of talking trash on the cool, but you have to be careful what you speak into the universe. So I'm like, oh, these people coming to me with all that crap, I should be getting paid for this. Well, me and my big mouth. So after I retired from being a waitress, I became a full-time psychic advisor. And that came at a moment of introspection. I woke up one day and I just couldn't do the waiting tables anymore. I just couldn't do it no more. It was like, okay, it's time to quit. And I'm praying. I'm like, well, God, how am I supposed to pay my bills? And God's like, do you trust me or not? Okay. So I stopped going. I just pulled the plug on the whole waiting tables career. Waitress and bartending. I just abruptly pulled the plug. And maybe I would say not even 3 days later, I got the call from the psychic lines and was thrown into that immediately. So that's how you get the second I in iiYansa, because my screen name is Indigo.
I saw that as well.
Yes, Indigo. Okay. Now, the third I, and where you get the title Mystic Priestess, is that part is not self-acclaimed. I'm actually a Ifa Orisha priestess.
Okay.
Officially initiated and, what the Christian world calls ordained. And I was initiated by Oloye Babalawo Hunan Ifakayo de Ogunsina and Yeye Nifa Oloye Yeye Nifa Fade Isi Ola Olu Ola Bisi. So those are two what you call chiefs in African spirituality. So yes, I'm actually an ordained or initiated priestess. So I say mystic priestess because it engulfs all of it.
Right.
Because my 9 to 5 now is doing readings. That's all I do all day, every day.
Wow. And so I find that very interesting because I was living in Puerto Rico. And so their connection with African spirituality is enwrapped in the Orishas as well. We have, and I think that spans across a lot of the Afro-Caribbean countries. And,
Absolutely.
And I really love that we have a glimpse of that here in Houston, because so often I feel like spirituality and religion is kind of one-sided. And so I like that you've kind of expanded upon that in a different sense. So tell me a little bit more about the spirituality side of it, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, actually, the practice of Ifa Orisha has always been underground here in the United States. Because, you know, when we came here, when African American people came here as slaves, we had to take our religions and our cultures underground.
And hide them.
We had to hide them. But they never ceased their practice here in the States, especially the connection with the ancestors. And a good point with that is when you look in any, you know, I know you've been in some Christian churches where people have, quote unquote, caught the spirit. And they're wiggling and dancing and jumping and moving. And they're just in this place, right? And it is the Holy Ghost, but it's also a direct connection to our African lineage, because that was how we praised in the bush all day. Make sense? So with the spirituality of it, it's really an overwhelming experience. I can't say that I regret a day of it, but it certainly enhanced my work as a psychic advisor. I definitely see and feel the difference. And there's just an overall greater understanding. But as far as what I do spiritually, well, let's see. There's numerology, there's astrology, there's I Ching, there's shell throw. I work with 6 tarot decks, egg readings, mediumship, and I've also created some of my own signature readings that fit specific situations.
Fabulous. And so you, in addition, as you mentioned, to your readings, you have a number of other things on your plate, considering, also including being the creative director for Women in a Circle of Healing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Now, Women in a Circle of Healing, that is the organization belonging to the Yeye Nifa that I mentioned. Ms. Yeye Fade is what she likes to be called. And what she does is she has a Rites of Passage program. She has her consultations, and then we do this yearly African American Women Health Forum yearly, where we discuss a lot of the physical, mental, and spiritual things that African American women must do in specifics to take care of their health, their communities, and their families. And so after I had been initiated into the house, I became creative director because, you know, she knew of all my theatrics and artwork and things like that. Because I'm not really much of a lecturer. I like to let my artwork teach. Okay. So that fits right into being creative director of Women in a Circle of Healing.
So in addition to Women in a Circle of Healing, what about the Pan-African Festival that we've got coming up? I mean, you're an author. You have your foot, I would say, in a number of avenues.
Yes, I have my fingers in a lot of pies.
That's the best way to be. That's the best way to be.
Yes, I do. So yes, community, Houston community, listen up, listen up, listen up. Shape Community Center is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And I know I came to be around Shape in 2010, and all I've heard were the endless stories of the legacies of Shape Center and how the Shape Community Center has helped so many people in the Houston area and in the beyond across the world. So the theme for this year is Come On Home. So this Saturday is the Pan-African Festival, but it's a yearly Pan-African Festival, but it's also for the Shape 50th anniversary. So everybody come out, please, and show your love for Shape, because Shape has been showing love to Houston and the world and our people for 50 plus years. Come on home.
And where can we go to find more information about the event?
Shape50th.org.
Shape50.org.
Yes. And it will be Saturday. It will be the Pan-African Festival will be from 11 to 7. And then the Founders Day will be June 1st from 6:30 to 9 at the Emancipation Park.
Fabulous. And so I want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the specifics of what you do. I want to start with your YouTube channel. Right?
Okay.
I want to talk about the video that I recently watched, and you talk about baggage, essentially, in a more metaphorical sense, right? And how this defies, I guess, gender lines. Both men and women have issues with dealing with baggage from perhaps ex-partners,
Yes.
any childhood traumas. There's a plethora of things that people bring into their relationships with other people and the people that they interact with on a daily basis. So I want to unpack that, so to speak, a little bit about how to deal with your baggage. And first of all, identifying that you have baggage, and how do you figure out what is the best way to free yourself and pack light, in the words of Miss Badu, right?
Absolutely, yes. That song got me through a lot of hard times.
Absolutely.
I used to have to put that song on repeat, so shout out to Miss Badu. Thank you for writing that song amongst many of your masterpieces, because that song was, and still is, everything to me. So let me start with the theme of my YouTube channel. Okay, so day in and day out, I listen to everyone else's, issues and queries, and giving advice and doing the healing work and these things. But I had to set, you always have to set aside that little something for yourself. And as I said, writing has always been a part of my world. So my YouTube channel is the video version of my mystic diary. So I write about the things that I experience, and I teach about the things that, that I know personally about the universe based on things that have happened in my life. So that's why you see the date in Yoruba in the video, and you see me actually reading the part of the diary that leads to the point that I'm teaching. But in the video in specific that you were talking about, it spoke to the heart chakra. Because from Ntozake Shange's play for colored girls, the lady in green, because see, she didn't write out specific names for the characters. It was lady in green, lady in red, lady in brown, lady in blue, lady in purple.
More representative.
Yes, because these ladies are all of us. And so I found it interesting that the lady in green was the one who said, somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. And who is this you left me with? Some simple with a bad attitude. That means that when somebody is able to, or how Christians would say, steal your joy, they're able to leave you empty inside. But that emptiness creates room for unclean things to enter. And since the body is the temple for the spirit, we have to understand that every physical ailment has a spiritual root. And it is not a coincidence that so many African American women lose their lives to heart-related illnesses. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's not all cholesterol and bad diet. That's carrying around the pain from our ancestors. That's constantly being belittled. That's tolerating abusive relationships. And that's just being made to feel like you have to carry these things around, and you don't. So, and it's a very simple and powerful mechanism. Number one, never be afraid to acknowledge that there is a problem. And I see that our people are doing a lot better with that. But what we have to understand is the silence that we were taught came from our oppressors, our former oppressors. When our former oppressors wanted to come in our houses and rape our children, we couldn't say anything, because as slaves we didn't have rights as people. But we have those rights now, and now we have to make sure that we use them and we exercise them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So when Erykah Badu says pack light, You gonna miss your bus. You can't hurry up because you got too much stuff.
You can't get to where you going.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Stuff you don't need.
And when you hold on to the things you don't need, you block your blessings. So the essence of that particular speech was for everyone to free their hearts, because I didn't want to stay just on women, because this is just my honest opinion. Men have it harder because they're the ones who are forced to be tough and macho no matter what goes on, and are often often denied the rights to their own feelings and the rights to their own personal ills. You know, let's look at how society teaches how men are supposed to be used. You know, he's supposed to provide. He's only as good as what he can. You see what I'm saying?
Produce and bring to the
exactly.
table.
And that puts bags on our men that they don't deserve. We're all human beings, and we all have souls and spirits that are supposed to be light. And that heads back to the biblical translation about weighing the soul with the feather. Pack light. Pack light. How do you pack light? I can only give what worked for me. Accountability and forgiveness. Now, forgiveness isn't always easy, but I found accountability to be better. Because when you can look at your life and say, this is my fault, you have the power to fix it. But as long as you're playing the "Po Pitiful Me" orchestra, you were constantly in a victimized state, and a victim is helpless. A victim can't do anything. A person who takes accountability can. So accountability is very important. And forgiveness, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, is a whole lot easier said than done. But the reason why forgiveness is important, it's not about being weak. It's not about allowing someone who harmed you to get away with it. What the universe is really saying is forgive this person so you don't have to seek vengeance. Because when you seek vengeance, you put yourself on the wrong side of universal law. When God didn't need your help from Jump Street. So when you forgive someone, you're taking your power back. So you're not mad at them anymore, and your body is no longer releasing those health-threatening endorphins. So it's more on that level. I wish I could have took it to that level on the video, but on the speech, but I only had 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's about your energy and
Yes.
giving your energy to yourself versus giving it to, something that's dead or something that's toxic and something that's only going to ultimately destroy you and then, right? So
yes.
I assume that's all a part of the healing process, correct?
Oh, yes. And one more thing. Take the things you've gone through and create something positive with it. You know, the universe tells us this secret in gardening. What does poop do? It stinks, but when you turn it over, it grows flowers.
Absolutely.
So take all the poo you've gone through and grow a fruit with it and go feed some folks.
And so grow it and pass it on.
Yes.
Don't hold on to it, pass it on, share the wealth.
Exactly. Turn it over, grow some fruit, and go feed some folks.
So do you have anything else to add about your YouTube channel specifically? Do we have anything that we can look forward to in the coming weeks, months?
Actually, yes. The YouTube channel is actually going to be divided into 3 sections.
Okay.
The Book of Sun Rays is the spiritual teachings. That's the ones I have the most of now. And then the Poetic Book of Moonbeams is the diary of my poetic performances. Because I still do my performing art. That's my therapy. I have to have that. And the third tier is going to be the Griot Cellar. And that is a video series that is going to discuss the spiritual meanings behind my bottle paintings. Because we still haven't even discussed the bottle art yet. Oh my gosh, I got a lot going on.
We got time. So let's lead into that. Tell us a little bit about the bottle art.
Okay. See, what had happened was I was one of the Our House artists from the community knows her as Mama PK McCary. You know Mama PK. Who doesn't know? Who doesn't love Mama PK? And so I was making earrings at first. Story of 2 bottles. The first bottle, I was making earrings at first. And I had this bottle of red wine. Okay, I confess, I emptied it. I drank that one. All right, there it is. So I painted it, and I put some wires on it as an earring display. And it was never supposed to be a sale item. It was it was a table decoration, pretty much. And I was at the pop-up market for Kwanzaa. It was on Alameda. And it was a lady who, she bought the earrings, but then she was like, I really like the bottle. And she's like, how much is the bottle? And I'm looking at her like, huh? And my partner was like, $25. And I'm looking at her like, what are you doing? She was like,
making some money. That's what we doing.
And she just looked at me like, shut up. And I'm like, okay. And so that was the first bottle sale. And then the second one, I was at Mama PK's house, at our house, and it was some drama going on. And I had some paint in this bottle, and I'm painting this bottle, and I am going off. Just going off. And she's just sitting there looking at me like, okay, I'm not gonna do this with you. I'm just gonna sit here and look at you. And she's like, now look at your hand. And I looked down, and I didn't even realize the bottle was so beautiful because I was so busy fussing. And that was the second bottle. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna paint 20 of these, because at the time I was still bartending. So I took home 20 wine bottles from work, and I painted 20 of them. Went to a Kwanzaa market, came back with 6. The rest is history.
Hey. And sometimes life just happens, and it's exactly what it's supposed to go down.
Absolutely.
You're in the space where you're supposed to be at, and then things just manifest from there.
It goes back to faith and prayer. Faith. Because, one of the teachings that I took from being Christian was to pray without ceasing. And that doesn't mean stay on your knees all day. You can't do that. That's not possible. That means keep a connection to the Most High on a regular. So I'm like, okay, God, you know what I need. Goddess, you know what I need. Universe, you know what I need. You know what I was born for. You know this better than I do, because I'm still unraveling and figuring things out. So I'm just going to stand back, get out of the way, and allow you to be a light onto my path. And that was how these things transpired.
And obviously a lot of power of the tongue, right? You speak it into existence, and it unfolds right in front of you.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of responsibility that comes with speaking things into existence. Because I can confess to saying some not so good things that have come to pass too.
Yeah.
So the power of the tongue, people, is very, very, very important.
So you mentioned that you were thinking about breaking your YouTube channels into 3 different, I guess, subcategories, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about your books. You are an author, so I want to hear about your inspiration. I want to hear about subject matter, everything.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
Well, you've already heard a little bit about one of my publications, and it was the thing that I was interviewed about the last time before I met your beautiful self.
Thank you so much.
And that was the Memoirs in Waiting. This was not my first publication. This is my second publication, actually. It's a mystic arts journal that combines my poetry, my bottle art, and my articles. And the theme of the first one was Memoirs in Waiting. And I used to write down a lot of poetry in between my tables when I was waiting tables and bartending. And there were a lot of those divine reader moments in between meeting guests and things of that nature. So I put all of those memoirs together into one journal. It's a full color magazine journal, 72 pages, and it's called Memoirs in Waiting. But the title of the journal is called the Izingoma. And Izingoma is a Zulu word for high priestess of the healing arts. And this one has a film titled Led by Christ in the Crossroads that's based on the feature article. So in this book, you'll find poetry, you'll find articles, you'll find bottle art. but it's all pertaining to the Orisha Eshu, who was the keeper of the crossroads. And I tied that theme in together because literally, I can't make this up. The last restaurant that I worked at before I became a full-time oracle was called the Crossroads.
Wow.
So, the universe made the signs pretty obvious.
With all the bells and whistles, the arrows, the neon.
Yes.
Wow.
You know how when the universe fixes things to where you can't argue with it.
Mm-hmm.
The more time went on after graduating from Prairie View, the more and more persistent and strong and undeniable the signs became.
Wow.
Now, the very first book was Crying Diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is a collection of my poetry. Now, that book has a darker essence to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we're talking a lot about the journey, but I haven't really gone too deeply into my struggles, and I'd rather save all of that for another interview.
Hey, that's totally fine.
Yes, but Crying Diamonds, the title's pretty self-explanatory, but I wrote that one before I graduated from college.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually a published author before a college graduate.
Okay.
And ironically, I finished the first draft of Crying Diamonds the same night Barack Obama was elected president.
Oh, wow.
Very same night.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had just uploaded it to Lulu while the neighborhood block party is going on campus. And it's like right when I click, you know how when you finish something in the library and you clicked off the screen?
Mm-hmm.
And right when I clicked off the Lulu screen, there was Barack Obama's picture. Right, the Crying Diamonds book, the very first draft. So that was some history behind that book. Now, I had took that book out of print for a few years because I got a lot of backlash from it.
Really?
There were people who didn't like what I was saying, who didn't want me talking about this or that. Why do you have these pictures of you where you're kind of scantily clad? Just all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
And me being young and impressionable and still, even though I was on this spiritual journey, I still wanted approval, and that was my weakness.
Mm-hmm. That type of validation.
Yes.
External validation,
Yes.
that is.
Yes. And then it really got intense to a point where I took that book out of print for a while, and I just re-released it this year. And that book is titled Crying Diamonds 11 Years Later. So that's that one. And then last Kwanzaa, the third book, I wrote this one in 9 days, Kwanzaa for the Cosmos.
Yeah.
I wrote that book in a week and 2 days. Don't ask how I did it, I don't know. But that's a book that explores the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, of course, and how to properly get into the nightly rituals of Kwanzaa aligned with the moon cycles.
Okay.
So it's like last year, the moon was in a waning cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I aligned it with the certain days and put poems in between and wrote some Kikumcho Moja recipes. So that was the third book. Mm-hmm. And the fourth book you see here is the first of a series of 12. And this one is called Cardinal Fire. Mm-hmm. And it's the book of all things Aries. And what these are designed for is to help people understand more about their cosmic designs, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because society, we mainly go by our sun sign. Oh, you're Aries. Oh, you're Taurus. Oh, you're Leo. Oh, that's just the cover of the book.
There's a lot more to it.
There's a lot more to it. Are you first decan, second decan, third decan? What's your moon? What's your ascending? What's your descending? What's your vertex? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So these books is like a mini encyclopedia series, if you will, so that people can understand more about each sign individually as opposed to trying to cram it all in at once.
Okay.
So here's the first one, Cardinal Fire, is finished. And the second one, Unaltered Soil, which is the book for Taurus, is on its way to print. And hold on to your hats. The Gemini book is going to be very interesting.
I 100% believe it. I have a couple Geminis in my life, so I think I'll benefit from definitely reading the Gemini.
Lord have mercy. I got rid of mine.
Oh, got rid of them. Sorry to hear that, Geminis. You'll be all right.
No, he was just one. You know,
just
that
one,
that
just
ain't
one.
all of them. You know, I've
Okay.
met some cool Geminis. You know, let me tell you the truth about Geminis. I'm just going to put this out there.
Lay it on us.
Okay. Everybody has a sun and a shadow quality.
Absolutely.
Now, most of us try to hide our shadow quality while showing our beautiful side. Gemini skip to my loo with their shadows in front of everybody, and they don't care what you think about it. That's just, Geminis show everybody the truth of themselves. You got some poop too. That's the Gemini.
Don't act like
So
you
like,
don't
oh,
stink.
you never know what the Gemini's gonna do. Oh, please. Sometimes you don't know what you gonna do. He's just more honest about his.
Okay.
So yes, and most Geminis are spiritual gatekeepers. They show you the sun and the shadow, and whichever one you choose is on you.
Wow.
So just a little 411 on Geminis. Sorry to dry snitch on y'all. That's my bad.
So talking a little bit more about your writings, you have a poem, I believe, to share with us.
Yes, I brought a poetic excerpt just in case I was asked to bless.
Oh, bless us. Lay it on us.
I say. So last time I was on Conscious Mindset, I wrote one on the spot.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, this one is an excerpt from, I'll say, just a day in my life. That day will be revealed in a later publication. Okay. Tick-tock, the clock reads 8:44. So high it painted ghetto streets gold as a salve over scars on the soul. I snuffed out doubt like a black candle that lit my fears aflame, watched them go up in smoke and ether in a sage stick wedged between my teeth. Whispered to the wind, please would make way for me. Stepped runway style on rain-polished sun rays and said, hey, I landed on this planet 4 blocks from where I'm standing. She planned this. He endorsed this, of course. I never felt so natural. My pounding heart surrendered to its natural drumbeat cadence, switching my hips in a manner so ancient, adjacent to the timidness of religious stunting my growth. We snickered, you and I. The universe had our own inside joke. I tightened up my cloak and trusted the sources that know everything, so I lifted every voice and sang until heaven rained and let my freedom string these cowrie shells round my neck 3 times. As strong gust of breeze blew my maroon cape in the waves, over a white dress to the floor, all keys to all the other locks jammed, leaving space for only the right door. It seems I picked a door I didn't pick at all, just picking the locks and answering the call, recalling days I dirtied myself deliberately, trying to be my own worst enemy, ego bombarding. Something's regarding a higher calling. Like a magnet pulled inside I couldn't even ignore. Recognizing and diminishing my own minion voice in a half sentence, stance, turn, providing another understood laugh at the illusions of normality I apparently never had. I felt some first and my nerves released, more relaxed, and I felt, if I felt any better, I'd kiss myself, just keeping it real. I'd been down for so long, out for so many years, imprisoned by so many fears. Stop. Stop sign. I listened, stared at it for a second, drew in a deep breath and let that part of me persistent and balance how she needed to, becoming accustomed to bearing my cosmic soul. I picked up my stroll as Mama sang her wind song, and gratitude that made the trees dance. Ethereality is potent. Realizing my core was only bent, never broken, but to be molded, allowing all the broken pieces to form a mosaic, like an innate visual of my Akashic records. Majestic yoga pose, archives of suggested cases closed, a pataki of victorious war stories floating on faith, something like coasting, knowing. Like a too short dress showing heartbreak, betrayal, lies, curses, hearses, mind games, passions, flames, switching names, morphed from a suicidal dance to a renegade warrior stance of a princess resting on a peaceful side of 9 machetes. I yank up my dress, step over this puddle so my hem don't get muddy. No energies, victory trouble anywhere in sight. Just the bright morning sun, seeing a higher love by Steve Windwood. Turned the corner, crossed the street, gave my obsidian black yoni egg a squeeze like my arms under a dark crimson coat. A secret promise to never again abandon me. I drew in a deep breath and gave the toxic training the kiss of death off the last Newport drag in a puddle. The door to my destiny, iron, cast. The rest was taken from me, and I can still stand here and laugh and let you look puzzled. Some heats melt muzzles, even when they're cast iron. Behind that door is a piece of both ways that connected the whole picture, and finally, it all makes sense. Categories, expectations, released in a forgiving kiss, blown to a swift and shiny wind. I bent, removed my shoes, stepped inside the spiritual house. The journey begins.
Oof.
iiYansa Muse.
Chills. Chills.
This poem was just about a walk around the corner when I was headed to get a reading.
No, but that's something. I feel like knowing yourself is the first step to anything. First step to finding your purpose, the first step to forgiving, the first step to loving other people. It all starts with you.
And accepting all of you. The good, the bad, the ugly, accept all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, never try to seek the approval of people who don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in.
Ooh, say that again for the people in the back one more time.
That part. Never seek the approval of people who don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. Because when it's all over, they have to face the same music you do.
And I think that's something, I can only speak for myself and maybe my generation, but with the social media and that being, that sort of instant gratification and us looking to those platforms to make us feel good about ourselves or to validate us in some sort of way or to prove our worth. I feel like that's something so very important to kind of instill in people's brains that it doesn't matter how many likes you're getting on Insta or how many people are looking for you, talking to you here. If you don't feel the love for you, nobody's love is going to be able to quench that thirst.
Exactly.
So that was beautiful.
And I mean those things are important. Social media has I'm allowing the positive aspects of social media to grow on me, because at first I was like, heck to no, I can't no,
because there are some positives, definitely.
Oh yes, it's a lot of positivity can come from the use of social media. But you really hit the nail on the head when you said that, because social media can be used to enhance an already positive message.
Absolutely.
Or it can be that imbalance where people start doing all kinds of who shot John for validation.
Right.
And I'm glad that we're finally in an age, and I'm very proud of the younger generation for pulling the plug on the need for approval.
Absolutely.
And of course there are areas that need balancing, but elders need balance. We all need balance. We're all here to balance. If we were so perfect, we wouldn't need this human experience.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But it's really that was a really beautiful thing you said with that, with not rating your sense of self-worth with likes and shares and follows. Yes.
Thank you for that. So as we start to wrap it up, where can we find you? Tell us about your website. What kind of goods can we find on there? How do we get in contact if we want some more of you?
All right. I have a one-stop spot right now, and that's www.poeticallymused.org. And I know it's a lot of esoteric everything, but I named it Poetically Mused because through poetry was where my spiritual portal first started opening. So everything's based on poetry. And you will find the Windsong Crawl of Oracles there. That's where I do my spiritual teachings. You will find information about my poetry there. And you will also find information about my bottle art there. That's all on one website. I'm on Instagram at iiYansa Indigo J Muse. That's iiiYansa IIINDYG Go GO J Muse. And you can always contact me directly at iiYansa IIIYANSA at poeticallymuse.org.
OMG. That was great.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Any last final words for us? Maybe some affirmations you want to leave us with before we go?
I think I did already.
Yeah.
Just don't never seek approval from anyone who doesn't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. That's number 1. 2, align spiritually. That doesn't mean be religious. That means have an organic connection with the divine. Because the things that you want out of life, the universe wants for you. It just has the easier route. Your ego will make it harder.
Woo. Okay, one more time. Give us your website and your socials. We'll say goodbye to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. www.poeticallymuse.org. And my email is iiiYansa@poeticallymuse.org. And we can get to all the socials from there.
All right. Once again, I am Cameron. You are listening to Black on Both Sides. We had a fabulous interview here with Miss iiiYansa Muse.
Ashe.
Reach out to her in whichever medium you feel is best for you, and we will be right back. We're going to take a short song break.
Ah, that was refreshing. Black on both sides and a rainbow in the middle. As I stepped outside, I was greeted with the love of 2 village mothers who inquired about my first zodiac book, All Things Aries. There'll be more on that later, but for right now, for me, it's back to the quasars, and tomorrow, a performance at the Pan-African Festival celebrating 50 years of community service for the Shape Community Center. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Ashe.